What's up guys, the Lazy Goldmaker here with another video, and we're going to dive into 9.2 stuff. So today we're going to take a look at what the best legendary slots are likely to be in 9.2. So if you haven't already leveled your recipes, you might be able to profitably do it still. It's still about a week until we can get the new vestige, so you have time. Let's take a look at the how gearing works and what slots in general are going to be good, and then we'll take a look at what the Wowhead guides, because someone has already done the legwork, and we'll take a look at what the Wowhead guides are saying, and then we'll see what the best slots are. So first we have to talk a little bit about, well, two things. We have to talk about the stat budget of items and the specific tier or the specific gearing sets in 9.2, which is the tier set. So in general, there are four classes, actually five if you include rings, of stat budget for items. The highest stat budget, the most amount of both primary and secondary stats, you'll get that on your helmet, your chest piece, and your leggings. So these three slots are generally be the best to have a legendary on, because that will give you the highest total amount of stats possible, because you get more stat per eye level here than in any other slot. After that, you have shoulders, gloves, boots, and belt. They all come in at the same stat budget. And then you have capes and bracers as the lowest main stat type item. And then you have necks and rings, which don't give main stat, they just give your secondary stats. So for some small amount of specs, these might be actually useful if your spec scales really well with one or more secondaries. Usually not the case. Usually it is better to have primary stat. That's been the case in Shadowlands in general. So if you could, then you'd want to have like a helmet and either chest piece or leggings, because that would give you the most amount of stats if you could have that. Now, obviously, we have tier sets, and tier sets cover the chest, gloves, helmet, legs, and shoulders. And you're going to want four of these, and then on top of that, some of these things, the chest and the shoulders, drop from the last two bosses, or the last three bosses, and that means that they drop at a higher item level. So in general, you're not going to want to put your chest or shoulders on, you're not going to want to put a legendary power on them. Although you could make a case for, obviously, if you're progressing, it might be you're not going to get this one until you're going to have this from heroic if you're progressing mythic, for instance. So you could make an argument for the chest. But long term, you're going to want to have those for legendary stats, and once you're getting into the jailer progress, the optimal set includes both tier chest and tier shoulders for pretty much every spec in the game if possible. So you can take one of these slots. One of these you can put a legendary on. And the best one in isolation is the helmet. And the reason for this is because the legendary helmet comes with a guaranteed socket. Legendary pieces always have a socket if they can have a socket. So that's pretty nice. So if you can put your legendary on a helmet, that's really, really good. Of course, early on, people are going to prioritize getting their tier sets. So this isn't that good yet. You need to actually kill one of the last, or both of the last two bosses and get your pieces from them before helmet becomes even something to consider. But that's in general. And then the other legendary, since you can equip two legendaries, that's going to be in one of the other slots. And the best slot in theory is the belt, because you get a guaranteed socket and it has the highest stat budget. So it all depends on your spec, exactly what combination you can have. Of course, boots are pretty much as good as belt, except you don't get a socket for free. And rings can also be good. You get a socket for free there. Same with the necklace if you can utilize secondary stats. But that's the general consideration. Like the best, if you can, you'll want to put it on one of the big pieces, put your legendary there. In general, this is the BIS sets. Right now, there's a lot of people buying rank 6 legendaries of the others, of non-tier set slots, because they want to be able to get their tier 4 or 4-piece bonus as soon as possible. And that means that they can't have a legendary in any of these slots because they don't know what drops they're going to get. So a lot of people right now are getting capes, boots, belts, rings, necklaces, all of that stuff. But that's for rank 6, and that's for right now. I'm uncertain how many people will prioritize upgrading those to a rank 7 specifically while waiting for tier sets. It does depend a little bit on the price. So I'm going to focus on the BIS setups in the further analysis. So now we're going to take a look at this spreadsheet, which was made by Old Grum, and he posted it to the WoW Economy subreddit. So he's done all of the legwork for me, which is very nice. So this is, I think, the most relevant one. He has gone through all of the class guides, and he has taken a note of what the best, what the suggested legendaries are, and then he's picked the highest stat slot for all of them. This will give you a rough just breakdown of what slots people are going to be looking to buy. This is if you don't include any alternate legendaries, so this is the most relevant one. So we can see here that in general, chest pieces pretty good across the board. Not so for mail, but mail doesn't have that many specs, so they're going to look small across the board. Leggings are pretty good in general. Helmet pretty good in general, because when you're picking the highest slat slot, you're going to pick these every time. Then you have some of the other slots. So it varies a little bit between armor type. For instance, for leather, there's a lot of shoulder legendaries. For cloth, there's a surprising amount of bracers that's suggested. And there's quite a few necks and rings. Now, this is just looking in isolation. I'm not sure. I haven't gone through all of the guides. I don't know how these consider combinations with the Unity power when we get Unity. Because Unity throws a big wrench in this whole equation. Unity, the new legendary power for your Covenant legendary, can be put into any slot you so choose. What does that mean? It means that you're going to either want to put that on your helmet or your belt, for the reasons that I already outlined, for your long-term BIS setup. So for instance, if your suggested class legendary can be crafted either on your helmet or your belt or whatever, then you might want to put the Unity power here and then put the other legendary on a belt, and then you have another legendary for your off-spec that's on your ring, and then you don't have to swap out your Unity head. And you'll just keep that on at all times, which makes it easier. And you're guaranteed to always have a big stat slot legendary, so that's a pretty good combination. Now, ultimately, there's so many combinations to consider, and there's also a lot of people who might temporarily craft rank 7 legendaries in non-tier slots to make sure that they keep their tier set bonuses. But this is what people will be working towards long term. So these are generally going to be the slots that are popular, but probably all of them. I think belts are a big sleeper hit, because they are the optimal Unity slot if you are going to put your main class legendary in one of the tier slots. Then you want to have Unity on your belt. So even if this isn't used for any of the other slots, I think this is going to be a pretty good slot overall. And then you can also take a look here, which includes the alternatives. And this is going to be very relevant for people who want to choose, put their Unity power on their helmet. Then they're going to put, then these are going to be a lot more relevant. These non-tier piece slots, all of these slots are going to be relevant then. People might be erring towards these slots specifically if they're planning to put Unity on their helmet eventually. And this is also a very good setup, just sort of loot acquisition wise, because it means that you have the time to get all your other tier pieces. So you can get your chest, you can get chest, legs, shoulders, and gloves. You have a couple of weeks extra, and then you can put your Unity piece on your helmet, and you keep your class-specific legendary on one of the non-tier slots, just to ease with gearing, and then down the line you can break down your legendaries and recraft them in the optimal slots. But yeah. Now, there is just a huge amount of potential different permutations to consider. Now, in general, I'm going to prioritize the slots that are in the spreadsheet, which you can also find in the video description. Those are my favorite slots, a lot of the ones that have high numbers here. So I've prioritized on my U-Realm, for instance. I have, what have I leveled there? We have the plate leggings, we have the plate chest piece, we have the cloth leggings, and the cloth helmet. Those are the ones I leveled on a new realm I started. Maybe I should have gone for the cape. It's looking pretty good right now. A lot of people in my Twitch chat the other day was talking about how much they were getting sales for the cape right now, rank 6, because there is. I'm a little surprised about that, because most people will have their legendaries on non-tier set slots already, because the Shard of Domination slots cover most of the same slots as the legendaries. But we could see some more people craft away from the tier pieces, so that they can guarantee to get their force piece online alongside their legendary as soon as possible. And then down the line we might see some helmet and belt sales, particularly for Unity, once that comes online in 3 weeks time. But yeah, just focus on the ones with big numbers here. I'm not going to go through all of them. And then I would in general say that helmet and belt are the best Unity slots in theory, and they should be seeing a lot of demand once the Unity power becomes available. So that's going to be exciting. Now, what have you leveled? Are you ready? Are you going into legendaries? If you are, let me know in the comments. Or if you're seeing any specific rank 6 sales, I'm sure loads of other people are interested in what's working out right now. If you want to support the channel, you can do so through patreon.com/thelazygoldmaker, and you'll get access to my full TSM setup, which will include settings to post all of the rank 7 legendaries as soon as the items are in the game. So if you're interested, head to Patreon. And yeah, thanks for watching. Leave a like if you learned something, and we'll see you on the next video. Goodbye. Thanks for watching.